Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Today we will be practicing yin. For today's class, I recommend that you grab a blanket or something that can be used as cushion for the knees. At a point in class, that will be helpful. Other than that, nothing else specifically needed, but as always, grab anything that makes you feel supported and nourished. With that, let's jump right in. We're gonna make our way onto our bellies. To crocodile pose, opening the elbows wide, stacking your hands on top of one another, and then allowing the forehead to rest to the hands. You can open the feet as wide as the mat, the toes slightly in, heels slightly out. And if it feels good, you can wiggle the hips. Eventually finding stillness, beginning to find an even rhythm of breath in and out the nose. Feel the weight of the body as it rests against the earth. Our first shape, very simple. Just simply rotate the head to the right. You can relax your arms by your sides. And it's any rotation of the neck that allows you to experience maybe some degree of opening in the upper spine. But it's not so much sensation that you cannot stay with the breath. That even rhythm of breath in and out the nose, undoubtedly the most healing aspect of this practice. We'll be here for a little while. Just allow the weight of the body to rest against the earth. Noticing the way the breath feels as it moves within the body. Last few deep breaths here. And moving incredibly slowly, taking a few rounds of breath, begin to bring the neck back through neutral. And only when ready, you'll lower your right ear, your right cheek down to the ground. Arms by the sides of the body, palms face up. Breathing fully, allowing that breath to soften any sharp edges you might experience. Last few full rounds of breath. using a few rounds of breath to get there, make your way to Crocodile Pose. Once again, elbows open wide, stack the palms on top of one another. A moment to integrate, to allow the breath to move within the space you've just created in the upper spine. We'll make our way to Tadpole Pose. Pressing the hips back towards the heels, knees open wide enough so that you can allow the chest to soften between the inner thighs. Initially, just extend the arms, allow the forehead to fall to the earth. Bring your focus to the back body and allow the belly to rise and fall. Feel free to stay right here, or we will add a twist. Thread your right hand through the left palm and the left knee, lowering onto the right ear, the right cheek, the right shoulder. You can keep your left arm as is. Feel free to let it be passive, or you could drape it to the low back or maybe even the upper right thigh. Wherever you are, find a sense of ease. Find that smooth rhythm of breath in and out the nose. If you're in any variation with the left arm, begin to extend it long. And moving super slowly, begin to extend the right arm out in front of you. A brief moment to pause with a neutral spine, forehead down to the earth. Notice how the breath moves the body. And then we'll thread our left arm through, coming onto the left ear, the left cheek, the left shoulder. You can keep your right arm as is. You can keep it passive. You could drape it to the low back or bring it to the upper left thigh. Find stillness as quickly as you can. Let the mind wander, but continually invite the focus back to the breath. First, begin to extend the right arm long and slowly release. Child's pose. Gently, we'll make our way to a tabletop position. And we set up tadpole pose. So I invite you to rotate so that you are on the long side of the mat. And then here's where the blankets might be helpful. We'll come into either the same variation that we were just in. We'll come into tadpole pose. If that allows you to experience the intelligent edge in the hips, then I invite you to stay right there. Maybe you open up the knees a little bit wider this time around, or not. Or if you want to move towards frog pose, you open the knees wide as you can, while being able to maintain the connection to the breath, while able to maintain that sense of surrender. And then you can first, you shift your hips back, extend the ankles from the knees, your toes point out, and the intention is to continually shift your hips back in space. You can choose to stay up on the palms, or you can lower onto the forearms. You can soften your chest down to a pillow or a blanket. We won't be here for too long, and the intensity is quite obvious in the shape very early on. So can you feel that intensity without necessarily creating a story around it? Stay with the breath. For our remaining time here, this is a very, very subtle motion. You might not even be able to perceive it. This is for those of us that perhaps our intelligent edge has become a little bit easier, and we can invite a bit more sensation into the shape to stay with it. You can begin to invite some cat-cow-like motions just by tilting the tail up and down. And anterior and posterior pelvic tilt, very subtle. Notice how sensation changes as you do. Last few cycles of breath. And then we can gently bring some body weight forward. This is for those of us in full frog pose. And then bring your big toes to touch as you super slowly bring the knees back towards tadpole pose. We all meet there. Arms are extended, forehead's heavy to the earth. One big clearing breath. Big inhale through the nose. Exhale, big sigh, let it out the mouth. And then slowly, vertebra by vertebra, lift the torso, rise all the way up. And then we'll help our knees towards one another using the hands, shifting your hips off to one side, extending your legs long out in front of you. We'll make our way into caterpillar pose. For caterpillar pose, Though I didn't mention it at the start of the class, it is very helpful to elevate the hips either with a blanket or pillows. And as you fold forward, having something to rest the chest or the forehead is also conducive to relaxation as well. So I encourage you to have props available. Our legs are extended long, but go ahead and give your legs a shake so you're holding no tension in the back of the legs. Our feet are passive. And then you allow the upper body to simply drape forward until you find resistance. So you can bring pillows or blankets underneath the forehead, allowing your arms to soften. There is zero need to reach for the toes or to extend forward beyond that intelligent edge. But rather, layer by layer, breath by breath, we invite intensity. We, in fact, move towards it courageously. But we do so with gentleness, with softness, layer by layer, breath by breath. We move, we experience sensation, this moment from the inside out. Shift your focus to all the portions of the body that are currently touching the floor. And from that foundation, vertebra by vertebra, begin to lift the torso, rise all the way up with control. And then gently, you can just extend the arms behind you. Fingertips point away from you. Squeeze the shoulder blades tight. Press into the palms. Begin to puff up the heart. Just a brief counter moment. Breathing into the heart space, into the chest. And then slowly we'll lower all the way onto the back once again. A brief moment to simply rest in pentacle pose, a mini shavasana, extending the arms wide, opening the legs wide. There's nothing to fix, there's nothing to change. Take a few deep breaths in stillness. Notice what's happening under the surface. Gently begin to hug the knees inwards towards your chest. Give yourself a big squeeze, but let it be gentle, let it be intuitive. We'll make our way into our last two shapes, spinal twists. Open the arms wide, arms out to a T, or you could cactus the arms if that works better spatially or feels better within the body. Shift your hips 1 or 2 inches to the right. Keep the knees in close to the chest and lower the knees to the left, spinal twist. You can choose to keep the neck neutral, or you could look over either shoulder. You could slide pillows underneath the knees or between the knees. Feeling the breath as it moves up and down the spine. Last few breaths. And release. Begin to bring the knees back inwards towards the midline. Shift your hips 1 or 2 inches to the left. Keep the knees in close to the chest as you lower the knees to the right, spinal twist. As before, make the adjustments you need. Support yourself in any way so that you can find that sense of surrender. Your main focus, your main objective is to consciously breathe. Every breath being a clear, direct pathway to the feeling body. How does the breath feel as it moves along the spine, along the vertebra? Where is there restriction? And through that awareness, can you invite the breath towards it? Next inhalation, slowly bring the knees back through neutral. And then hug the knees inwards towards your chest one last time. And as you move intuitively and take your last few conscious rounds of breath within the class, let those breaths ask the question, is there anything else that's needed within the body before our final moment of relaxation together? Listen to your own body's wisdom, your own body's guidance. Eventually making your way to your final Shavasana. Extending the right foot to the right corner of the mat, left foot to the left corner of the mat. Relaxing your arms by the sides of the body, palms face up. Allowing yourself a few minutes to simply rest. Before we entirely settle in, let's unite the breath as this big human community. Full inhale all together through the nose. Exhale, big sigh, let it out the mouth. Twice more your pace. Last one. A few minutes to simply rest. I'll talk you out when it's time. For now, allow yourself to simply be. Begin to deepen the breath, allowing the belly to rise and fall. Expand and contract. Give and take. And from the low belly, allow your awareness to broaden to the tips of the fingers, to the tips of the toes, introducing small, little, gentle flickers of movement, allowing your movements to gradually become larger in their own way, in their own timing. There's always the option to stay in Shavasana. My words can simply wash over you. If you are ready, over the next 5 cycles of breath or so, we'll all meet in a comfortable seated position, allowing the sit bones to ground, the spine to lengthen. Feeling very clear in your foundation. Notice all the ways in which you are connected to the floor. And then from that awareness, from your roots, get a little bit taller from the crown of the head. Allowing the spine to be long, but all the muscles surrounding it to be soft. When we are strong and firmly rooted, we can move. Rather, when we're rooted in our center, we have the ability to move in any direction. And that is the power of shifting inwards, of coming back to your center, the invitation home. And to that, with reverence, we bow. Thank you for practicing.